I'm so happy today to be talking with Matt Zmuda, who is are you the founder of this group?
It's not really a group. It's just a website I
Or
put up. Yeah.
okay, yeah, this MultNoMo group, which I first saw it, I think, on Future Portland, some kind of thing they were doing, and I just thought it was so interesting because I've had a couple people on the show before mention this possibility, but this is like a real organized effort to what would you say, combine the county and the city? And
Yeah. So I think the technical term is city-county consolidation. It's
okay,
forming a single government, whereas right now we have two that mostly like spend their time fighting each other.
yeah, and that's why I was gonna say I'm hyped about this. I'll hit this a few
Woo!
times because like I got excited to talk about it even when it was just like a fringe possibility of guests on my show. And I was like, I've never even heard of this. But a lot of what I talk about on the show is people just confused as to who does what, the city or the county,
Yes.
and also the performance of both of them. But yeah, there's just so much I want to talk about. First of all, I did want to explain the name because I've been thinking about it like MultNoMo, and I like if you really want to are for this, you could say I want no mo MultNoMo,
Ex-
which God, I guess that doesn't really make sense, but
Yeah, yeah. Still workshopping the name, but I mean, it's resonated with folks.
yeah, and it's basically the idea of no more Multnomah County as we know it.
Right. So, I mean, the initial framing. So, let me back up. The genesis of this idea goes back to summer. We all remember the summer of 2025. I spent a lot of time doom scrolling. I don't know about you, but that was it was tough. There was a lot going on, a lot to feel bad about in the city. A lot of questions about like, well, are things going to really get better? Uh, and it was in the middle of this doom scrolling that I found this kind of random Reddit comment. Somebody said, there's a law in the books that like Portland could secede from the county. I'm like, oh. So I looked it up. That's not the case. But there was a constitutional amendment in 1968 that was then codified into a 1971 law that's in ORS Chapter 199. And it provides for any city, the largest city in a county with a population over 300,000, which is just Portland, but that's the way they write those kinds of laws.
Yeah.
Uh, by some mechanism, they can start the consolidation process so they form a single unified government.
Okay. Yeah, and yeah, that's interesting. So that law or ORS was introduced in 1968 or 71, is that what you said?
68 was a constitutional amendment. I think it was Measure 50, and
Okay.
that was approved pretty overwhelmingly.
Why do you think that was? Was it just like were there other things happening around the country at that time that they're like, we want to leave this open or
Yeah, I think city county mergers was something that was in the cultural zeitgeist. I know Jacksonville, Florida, went through a consolidation effort in '68. There was the Unigov thing that happened in '71. So I think that was a time when people were looking at the post-war America and they were like, well, maybe it's time to revisit this. I still need to research that. I'm not sure
yeah.
exactly what the motivations were.
I hadn't really thought about that much either, but I was like, I wonder, yeah, maybe there's similar states where there's this kind of city state apparatus or setup where like in Oregon, like Portland's like the only real city. I guess you could say Eugene and a place like that. But yeah, certainly over that population level. So maybe that was a thought of that. But I was going to ask you, like, in your opinion, because I think this is a great idea. So I'm hitting the hype button and all that. But like in your opinion, do you see like huge flaws with the county and the city, and like where's where's your personal reasoning for this?
Yeah, so this was, primarily motivated at first with my discontent with the county. I think there's a lot of things we can point to at the county level and saying that they're failing the region. But I want to distinguish this effort from that because I think even if we were to elect representatives to the county that were competent and responsive to the electorate, I still think that we would do better with a single government rather than two that have to coordinate.
Right.
It's
And
all, yeah,
well, and I had it in here, but I was gonna bring up because I've talked to the Metro president here. We also have a regional government,
right.
which I learned talking to them is a similar kind of I don't know if it's an Oregon law, but I guess it has to be. They were saying over a certain population level, a regional government has to be established if you have like freeways passing through and there's major transportation issues. So I just wanted to bring it up because a lot of people forget that there's the county, there's the city, and then there's also metro.
There's
So
also
there's
Metro.
three layers, and that's one of the reasons I support this is reducing that,
Right.
which
Actually,
helps people, I think.
there's a fun tie in there. So this would not be the first time that Portland and Multnomah County there's a proposed merger. So I think the initial thrust of the 68 amendment and the 71 law culminated in a 74 ballot initiative.
Yeah.
I can't find any reporting about like what the vote turnout was, but they said it was rejected, soundly rejected. I think it was more ambitious, and it was before Portland annexed East Portland. So
Right.
there
Okay.
it was a totally different situation 50 years ago. But as some by one way or another, that is what led to Metro existing.
Yeah, I read that in your I don't know what you call it, article that you wrote, the explainer thing, and I
Yeah.
thought that was so interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask you both about the that first attempt, and also like you had mentioned like this resulted in Metro or something, and I was just curious about that. Was it all around like you said, annexing and land use and that type of thing, or
So, I mean, to your point, at a certain population size, it makes sense to have regional coordination. And I mean, there are also troubles with Metro, some decisions and things that they do that I don't agree with. But I think for the most part, we should be thankful for having a directly elected regional coordinating government entity. So before Portland, living here in Portland, back in the 2010s, I lived in San Francisco, and you can see like there are visible scars, physical scars of where regional dysfunction and lack of coordination happen.
hmm,
So I'm a big fan of public transportation. There's this if you want to make transportation nerds cry, you just show them like here's the original plan for BART with extensions all the way up to North Bay, South Bay, East Bay, everywhere. There should have been rail going across the Golden Gate Bridge, but because Sausalito and that part of the Bay Area didn't want people from the city coming there, it was axed.
hmm.
And so
So you saw this kind of fragmented uh smaller governments in that region in that yeah.
it's because if you don't have somebody to referee that, if you don't have anybody to coordinate planning and development, then it turns into more of a zero sum thing. People don't want to pay for extra things. People don't, it's tragedy of the commons. The only way that you get out of a tragedy of the commons is to have a coordinating entity that everybody agrees to uh, try to make the best decision for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting because like San Francisco was still is one of the only places I knew that had done this, like that I've heard of, but I'm sure there's a couple more. But I'm also curious, like, because a lot of people are just like, I wrote on here, requires a lot, and you had a great explainer. I guess I can screenshot it in here or something
Mm,
about like what it takes with this Oregon law. And could you just walk people through that of like what it would take to
sure. So
merge Multnomah County and the city? Yeah.
yeah, it's actually pretty simple. So ORS 199-715 says that there are three ways that you can trigger this. The first is that you get a majority vote, approving vote from the city, or number two, you get an approving vote from the county,
These are
or
both from the elected,
from
like
the elected,
city
right. So we could get
council and
seven votes from current city council. We could get three from the county.
yeah, I guess that'd
Oh,
be a
well, I don't know how
majority,
the chair, basically the chair has to
but a
agree.
majority
A
would
majority, they
say,
would have
yeah.
to approve it, or a ballot measure. So you collect signatures from 6% of the Multnomah County voters from the last gubernatorial election.
Right.
And I think that's somewhere around 27,000 right now.
Okay. And you're saying it could be any one of those, like
Any one of those automatically triggers by this provision, it automatically triggers the consolidation process. So
okay, okay.
the Multnomah County or the region has 30 days to form a city county charter commission that comprises 13 people from the state, from the county, from the city, from outside the city.
Mm,
It's a real mix, and they then have 2 years to provide something that then gets put out to a vote, a popular vote.
okay. Similar to the city charter process that recently happened. And I was thinking about that because I didn't even think about this until us talking to our friend Max
Yeah.
yesterday about this. And I am so unhappy with the city charter as it's being rolled out now that I just see this as a way to be like, all right, let's kind of like start at neutral. Let's like figure out the county issues and the city issues. One of the things that really drives me crazy here is that homelessness is a county issue. They are in charge of mental health services and all that.
Mhm.
Um, but the city has become so frustrated that they have now kind of started to pay for that. And so it just, to me, that's a great example of highlighting why this is an issue of confusion over who does what, like I said earlier, and what this could potentially solve. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just I never thought of that until yesterday of like, yeah, if you're unhappy with the city charter as it's going now, this is maybe an alternative for people to consider
Right.
or
I,
to
I
think
don't want to
about.
over-index on that. And that's something that I didn't realize until late, like after. So backing up, like this was just a website that I put together. So I'm like, all right, I'll funnel my anxiety into something a little bit more productive. And I
Yeah.
wrote up an essay and I put it on a website, shared it with some friends and family, and they're like, yeah, this is great. I didn't think too much of it. And then all of a sudden, Alan Klassen of the Northwest Examiner writes up a piece. I think it was 2 weeks ago at this point, and then all of a sudden, like dozens of emails from people, some people working like currently or in the past for the city or the county, and they're like,
Mm.
"Yes, absolutely, this needs to happen." I'm like, "Okay, maybe there's something to this."
Yeah, I was actually just thinking like, yeah, about the kind of interest that you've received from it. So that's great to hear.
It's
Yeah.
overwhelming, yeah.
Um, yeah, let me see here. I was gonna ask a couple other things about you had something in there about, and I was curious where you got this from because I love to see these polled, but you had like recent polling, it says 25% are happy with local elected officials, kind of pointing to some reasons why this might be helpful to the community. And I'm also curious, can you talk a little bit about how and when San Francisco did this? Like what happened with
So
them and
every region has its own very specific history. I think San Francisco might have started that way or very early on in its history. So there are a lot of examples of city, county, consolidated governments. They include Philadelphia and Kansas City, Kansas, Honolulu, San Francisco. So those are I I don't know their specific history, but they consolidated earlier, or they maybe that was the way they always started. But there are more recent examples, like in Nashville and in Jacksonville, where that happened in the '60s, and Indianapolis in the '70s, where you can point to a clear problem that this was trying to solve, and some clear examples, some lessons that we can learn for our process.
hmm. And what are some of those? I'm curious, like what were they trying to
So two lessons I want to draw. So Jacksonville, uh, they were in a bad place in the '60s. They it was like sewage discharging into the river. I think their public schools got disaccredited. Half of the government seemed to be wrapped up in a corruption scandal.
hmm.
It was bad. And there's a real crisis that the community rallied behind and they put into this consolidation effort. And if you look on YouTube, the local media, the way that they talk about consolidation, it's joyful. Like there are
Like they
certainly
can't wait to get there kind of
I
thing?
mean, they look back, it was like, this is the greatest thing to happen to the city.
Mm.
There had been multiple local government officials indicted for corruption. We had a very Byzantine, complicated local government structure. So local leaders came together, and the reform solution they came up with was consolidation, the merger of the city of Jacksonville and Duval County, which of course created what is today the largest city by area in the contiguous United States and the 12th largest city by population in the country.
And it's not, I don't want to paint too rosy of a picture. Like every place has its problems, and some of the promises they weren't lived up to. But for the most part, yeah. Why does Jacksonville have a football team? Why do they have an NFL team? They're not a big city.
Yeah. Yeah, and Florida has a lot of NFL teams. So that's a good question.
Right. But I think they see like they couldn't have risen to the level of prominence without this
Right,
effort.
right. Yeah. Kind of putting them on the map a little more and establishing them as a city,
Absolutely.
or a city county, I guess.
Whereas Nashville, so the lesson that I can learn from that, so the lesson from Jacksonville is that a crisis can really help motivate and provide the political will. I will say that 80% of these consolidation efforts historically in the United States fail.
Yeah.
But some of the times when they do succeed, it's after several failures. So,
Hmm.
uh, I don't, you're hitting the hype button. I don't want you to get
Well,
too
just
upset if it doesn't happen the
yeah,
first
no,
time.
and I, honestly, like, just as somebody who follows local politics a lot, I think 20% is a pretty good chance. And also, I think it's important to like plant this idea with people just to get them acclimated to it. And it takes a long time to make this kind of change sometimes.
Mhm.
So, but I'm curious though, like, so you, when you were in the Bay Area, it was just like that since you had ever lived there. That was the
Yeah, I
setup.
was just passing through. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Oh, okay, okay.
which I think is also either currently or in the past tried to merge. Pittsburgh is like the major city in Allegheny County. Like it's no question. Their problem is that it's because it's so old. This is the difference between East Coast and West Coast cities is that there wasn't as much annexation, and there you have I think something like close to 100 jurisdictions in the Pittsburgh metro area,
Hmm.
and it becomes really difficult. Whereas Portland, we went through a big bang in like the 1890s when we absorbed, when we annexed Selwood and St. John's
Yeah. Yeah, no, I actually never thought about that. It's interesting because a lot of
and
people
Albina. Yeah,
in East Portland, yeah, talk about that when I think it was in the 60s or something more recently because they were part of that annexation process and they still feel left out because it was such a late thing
yeah,
becoming part of the city um and I talk about all the time how I I live on an unpaved street out here. That's part of the reason why a lot of these unpaved streets got annexed to the city. And the agreement was like, well, the city's not going to maintain these because it's just part of the annexation agreement.
yeah.
But I never thought about that component of, like much older cities on the East Coast don't really face that issue because they were established so much earlier. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The West is, characterized by having a lot more open space, happening a lot later in the nation's history, and we're not as constrained by the same historical forces. And for better, for worse, right? So federal land, like that's something that the states in the West, a lot of the state is federal land, but that's getting way outside of this conversation. Let's hold on the East Portland thing. Is this? I drove in here. I think I was a bit distracted because I got got stuck in traffic behind a fun run.
Yeah.
But is this? We're east of 82nd, right? Or we're
No, not quite, almost, but
almost.
that's why I always kind of joke. Like, I kind of consider myself more of like a District One person because like a lot of the same issues that are here in my neighborhood are sort of further out. Like no sidewalks, no paved roads, higher crime, higher. There's a lot of RVs still around here, zombie RVs and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I consider myself like an adopted part of that. And typically, yeah, this neighborhood has not been the best, although it's been improving.
Yeah. I mean, I think annexation is one of the main challenges to this argument of consolidation.
Yeah.
It's close enough that you might mistake those two. And maybe I want to take seriously the failure of any promises from annexation, and how we don't repeat that with consolidation. I think they're
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally different things, even though the effect is the same, is that there's an agglomeration. But I think the main difference is that with annexation, East Portland became part of Portland and therefore stopped being its own entity that could have like legal agreements with the city. It's just like, well, I'm just me. I'm not going to sue myself.
Right, right.
Whereas with consolidation, there can be intergovernmental agreements, other legal mechanisms that can keep people accountable.
And you're saying that specifically for like the cities in Multnomah County that aren't necessarily Portland. Is that kind of what you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And let's break that down because so this is civic education. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the kind of fun things about this is that you end up getting a real nice civics lesson out of it. So Multnomah County is pretty big. It stretches beyond the Portland metro area and it goes all the way to Gresham and Troutdale.
Hmm.
There's Woodburn and Maywood Village, which is a fun exclave. Are you familiar with the story of Maywood Village?
No, no.
Oh, Maywood Park. Am I getting that right? We'll
I
have
don't
to
know.
maybe we'll fix this in
I can
post.
put a title in or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
The correct
I
title.
believe I believe that that was formed as an enclave to try to prevent the creation of an interstate highway.
Okay.
So it was like a secessionist movement. They were trying to create their own jurisdiction to stand up against the freeway that was going to go through, but that ended up not having happening.
Hmm.
I don't know.
And that's part of Multnomah County.
That's
Yeah.
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 So that is its own jurisdiction, just because of the historical curiosity of what was
Hmm.
happening in the 60s.
Yeah. Because that was something I don't even know if I put it on here, but I think for a lot of people that's one of their first questions is like, how would these smaller parts or cities or towns, whatever in the county, what would that look like for them as part of this consolidation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, it's up to the city, county charter commission. I have some ideas about that. I have no rulemaking authority, and the voters really don't. We just ultimately approve or reject whatever they come up with.
Yeah.
But I think what the MultNoMo movement, what this can do is help guide. Uh, it can create a strong signal for the commission. We can say here's where people are on this. I expect with the 26 election and midterms coming up next year, that'll be an opportunity for people to campaign on this, and we can see like political alignment on this, and we can see, have a
Mm.
clear idea of this. Um, so the commission ultimately has a lot of flexibility in what they would do there. That's where I think we can learn some lessons from Nashville, where we don't have to get it all at once. We don't have to make one perfect abstraction. We can allow for uh, individuality. And I think as a base case, just assume that nothing changes for anybody else except for Portland. If Portland, which is 80% of Multnomah County by population, if we just report to ourselves and then everything else just retains the same sort of intergovernmental relationship with Multnomah County, that's a totally plausible place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it does make sense to me. I mean, it seems like most, and I don't want to speak for all of them, but most of the non-Portland sort of municipalities in the county generally are, happy with what Portland is doing. So I don't know, but it seems like you said there's also flexibility there with however
Yeah.
they put it together for
I
independence and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I still need to better understand like how Gresham might see this, but I was talking to Counselor Olivia Clark at one of those Meet Your District Reps events, and when I mentioned this to her, she's like, Gussie McRobert, the old mayor of Gresham, tried to get this done
Hmm.
in the '90s,
Hmm.
and it seems like there might be some latent political will to make that happen. I think the fundamental forces are still there in play. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's broad support from the small cities in the county.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that is really interesting. I didn't know that there was interest from Gresham. Let me see what else I got here. Yeah, I did want to bring this up. I'm just laughing because Max mentioned something about this yesterday, and I was talking to him because one of my first reactions and thoughts was just like, this must be a pretty heavy cost saving. But what he was saying was like, it might not actually be. It's just more efficient as far as delivering services and that type of thing for constituents and people.
Yeah. I like to think that there are three big arguments for consolidation. The first is cost savings. The second is clear lines of responsibility. You know who is providing services. And the third is accountability. So when services are good or they're bad, the people who are in charge face some consequences in the elections. They're either reelected or somebody else gets a job. I would say the argument for cost savings is probably the weakest. You might think, okay, on paper, the city has 7,000 people working for it, according to their website, and the county has something like 5,600. You would expect that there would be some overlap, and you would consolidate some positions. I think we're in a market correction mode right now, and we're already thinking about what we're going to do in the next couple years to face the new economic reality of the region.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the research shows that over time, like it actually doesn't it kind of washes out. What you have is anybody who then gets retains their job in this new city county consolidated government. Wages normalize to what they were. So I'm guessing that the city probably pays more. It depends, but it's going to basically just whoever is making the most in that position that becomes the baseline salary, and then that's probably a wash. So I don't want to oversell that.
Yeah. No, and I immediately, like, when I was talking about this yesterday, I was like, I could see that how, you might eliminate some positions and departments and whatnot, but it's not like an entire, like, one of these layers is gone. You're not really saving 6,000 employees necessarily, but it might be a little more efficient as far as staffing and way more efficient as far as service delivery and, like you said, responsibility. And certainly when it comes to elections, like there's just way more accountability, I would think of
Right. I mean,
because we know there's one entity to point to instead of two.
so like I think the lived experience of most people in Portland, or at least if not, like half of the people in Portland rent. And if you rent, you don't really have much direct interaction with the county. I mean, I was a renter for the first 6 years I lived in the city, and I really didn't have an understanding of what Multnomah County was.
Hmm.
I knew they ran elections, I guess. When they showed up for jury duty, I guess that was the courthouse or there's the sheriff. It's not clear until you like purchase, your home, purchase a home, and you see that, oh, all the property taxes you now owe to Multnomah
Yeah,
County. You
yeah.
don't you don't really have to think about them. And so I think the lived reality for a lot of Portlanders is that they just don't even know the county exists.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I never thought about it in that way because I'm the same. Well, I am still a renter, and like I think you're right about that. I think unless you have a direct reason to interact with them, like property taxes or something like that, there's not really a lot of reason to communicate with them or even know what they are,
So
unless
imagine.
you're like a hyper involved citizen or something.
Exactly. So when it comes election day, you're like, well, I see a lot of garbage and tents on the streets and things aren't getting better. Well, it must be the city's fault.
Yeah, and that's what I see all the time is I was thinking this morning, I talked about it in an old episode, but there was one time a public union that was upset with homelessness stuff and they showed up at a city council meeting and the city literally said, "You're at the wrong. This is a county thing." And it's just like sometimes like even high profile organizations like that are like kind of misdirected or in the wrong place and so yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think it would be helpful in all those
I mean,
aspects.
our commander in chief himself, I think during 2020, he was talking about Portland sheriffs and Portland County. Like, he, I mean, he's not the most researched person. He's getting a lot of interesting facts these days. But like, yeah, when you know, there's been a lot of civic unity around, especially about the feds lately in their ICE facility. Everybody's has a strong Portland identity. I see a lot more people flying the Portland flag. I don't see, you know, people aren't talking or thinking about Multnomah County. That's
Yeah,
just not where
yeah.
their hearts are. Uh, so I think that that really works for this movement. And so, like you'll notice, like Multnomah, the NoMo website, it's sort of I've sort of taken the Portland flag as the unofficial symbol.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good flag, I guess.
It's a great flag.
Yeah, I've never like thought about it. One thing I have noticed is I don't know if anyone's looked into this. I'll put a photo, but I believe it's the city seal. Have you ever looked at that? It's just really interesting. It's like I believe it's next to a river and it's a woman with like holding like a star. It's just
Hmm.
one of those old timey looking seals that almost looks like it almost looks like a cult or something. But it's
Yeah,
just really interesting to like look at it because I never did that until I started looking at like city graphics and letterhead and that type of thing. And it's
yeah. I mean, because the failure mode of most local flags is just to put that onto onto a piece of fabric and call it a flag, the city seal.
yeah,
I think we did well.
yeah. It is more of like a flag type of vibe for sure than a lot of the old timey stuff. I was curious, like, were there any other um were there any other interesting stats like that that you like off the top of your head? I just thought that was interesting, like about this polling of people's temperature on this stuff of whether it's the county or the city. Because I'm just like, like I said earlier, I'm really personally not happy with the new city charter. I think it was designed from a 2019 mindset,
Hmm.
and I'm looking for any solutions to like self-correct that, whether that's, this could be an option. But I'm just curious, are there any other like polling or stats on local?
I just the one that pops into my mind is I think the current chair of Multnomah County enjoys an 11% favorability
Yeah,
rating.
somewhere
It's
around 10%. Yeah.
very low, and I think that's a good proxy for discontent with the county. For people that know about the county, I don't think anybody's I don't think even in its history people say like, yeah, Multnomah County's really crushing it. Like there are bright spots. The library system's fantastic, award winning,
Yeah, yeah.
and I haven't had any issues with like the sheriff's department or recording documents or things like that. Seems like a normal government, but at the high level and especially in coordination with the city, this is why I think that we can't just use the argument of, well, maybe if we elect somebody good in the next election, this will work. So like I just let's assume let's say we're really lucky and we get a city council that's competent and aligned and works well together, and they're also aligned with the county. That already seems like a lot, like buy a lottery ticket that point. That's there's not a happy there's not like a happily ever after for that. You have to do that every election from there on out.
Mm-hmm.
What this city county consolidation effort does is slay that dragon, so you never have to deal with the possibility of gridlock because two entities that don't have any supremacy over another, they're basically siblings, they're peers, uh, can't agree on something.
Right. No, and there's no better example than that than the IGA with the Joint Office of Homeless Services. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still contentious to this day, but and this is just my view maybe, but for years there was completely different methodologies and viewpoints as how to address treatment and homelessness and addiction and mental health. And now they're kind of more aligning, but there's still friction with this agreement.
Right.
And it just seems to me, it just seems preposterous that we're basically, they're right across the river, the county and city hall,
Hmm.
but there's like a canyon of difference of how they want to approach that issue or what for years there was. So I think you're totally right. Like it just eliminating that problem would be a huge service to the community.
Yeah, it's effectively removing a veto point. And I think American politics, the government, a lot of the dissatisfaction comes from the fact that there's so many ways to stop something from happening.
Mm,
And that's where people get really fed up and maybe even just bow out. They just become apathetic because like, well, you can't fix this.
yeah. Yeah, and it just like one of the real themes that I hammer on the show is that it's almost every single guest I talk to of just whether it's the city or the county, like they just do not feel whatever level of tax in the tax matrix that they're paying, they do not see that displayed. They don't feel
Hmm.
those services. They don't see those services reflected. And again, I think this could be a huge help with that.
Yeah, talk about a statistic. I mean, second highest only to New York City for high income single member taxpayers.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we're not at New York City service levels.
for sure. Yeah, and you were saying like you're a fan of transit and stuff, and you know, from what I know, TriMet right now is scaling back service. They're having ridership issues, so it's just like you're right. It's not we're paying this level, but we don't have a subway system or any of this stuff that really
Yeah.
facilitates the city and services for the
It's
city.
all interrelated, though. I don't want to claim that this city county consolidation's panacea, but it all flows down. It all comes from the same source of problems, right? TriMet ridership is down because people don't feel safe.
Right, right.
That's at least that's a major factor of it. And if people aren't feeling safe, they're not going to show up. And if they don't show up, then the ridership goes down. There's no, yeah, it all it's all bundled into the same thing. We're all in this together.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, like, so if somebody, you've probably heard this question before, but if somebody heard this and they're just like totally unsupportive or just like that's never gonna happen, we should just stick with this new city system and just give it a chance. I'm just curious, what would you say to people with that criticism or that hesitation?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sympathetic to the idea that we just went through charter reform. I have some criticisms about how that's played out in theory and practice. Uh, but I- there is a fundamental problem with the way that the city and county relate to each other. And it's something that spans the entire political spectrum. Most city candidates, people that ran and succeeded in getting a seat on the city council, campaigned, at least in part, in this city county dysfunction. So it's
Mm.
not just a progressive or a centrist issue. This is something that I think people in their heart of hearts acknowledge as a problem.
Yeah, I never thought about that. That's true. Yeah, I'm curious, like, of the three methods you mentioned that would trigger this, I don't know what you call it, study or commissioned. What's the most viable path? Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, let's see. We'd have to count to seven in the city council. I think reliably we could get to like five and a half.
Yeah.
In the county, maybe one. I don't think there's yeah, there's a
I
lot of
was feeling
self-interest
more
there.
optimistic about the county one, but yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
it'd be hard because it's their own, they're kind of reinventing their own system and yeah.
Right. Maybe there's an optimistic argument where, they could see that, you know what, mea culpa. We haven't been steering the ship right, and maybe this is an opportunity to come out ahead at the very end of things. And that I think that'd be a magnanimous position to take. But I'm moving forward, given the response I've gotten so far, I'm moving forward with that third
The ballot
effort.
measure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, 27,000 signatures is
Yeah, it
honestly
doesn't
very
sound
within
like a
reach.
lot, and I'm just being totally honest. I have like I'm talking to like four different people who are doing different ballot measures, and
Yeah.
the number's always different. So I don't know, like that sounds totally achievable. So yeah, I mean, I hope that's a viable path for sure. Because I would sign that thing. I'm just saying that because I always get confused. Like sometimes people will say a real low number, sometimes people say a higher number. And obviously, I think it depends on which part of the
Yeah.
state you're in, but
I,
it's always based on the governor, the most recent governor's
yeah, I
vote.
guess it depends on what you're trying to, if it's a statewide measure or a countywide. My understanding is that, the statute says 6% of the turnout for Multnomah County for the last gubernatorial, and that was in
That
2022. And
that
that
makes
was,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, by my math, it's like 27,000. So signature gathering, you'd probably just need 40,000. uh, you know,
To be safe.
to be safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that does seem pretty realistic. Because like I said, I would sign that. And like, that's kind of like where is it at with the initiative? That's just kind of like you're looking into that
Yeah.
hardcore right now. Is that kind of the closest thing, proximity thing to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking to some folks that are more familiar with the is required of kind of establishing that kind of ground game. I think I'll have to like register a pack or something like that so that
Mm-hmm.
I can have some mechanism to accept donations and then pay for uh, people to administer the supplies, just everything that goes along with that. But yeah, that's the next step. I hope to do that by start that process by the end of the year.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Do you have any like I know this wouldn't be up to you, but do you have any like name suggestions? Like San Francisco, just it's just called San Francisco, or is there like an official
I think
name for
for
that?
most places, the city becomes the name of the thing.
Okay, makes sense. There's no confusion, I guess. Okay, and that's what you would recommend.
I that would be my recommendation. I love Multnomah as a brand. Um, maybe you can put that on like a vintage T-shirt or something like that.
Yeah. Um, okay, I was gonna ask you a little bit about like I always ask people, anyone who comes on the show. So when did you move here to Portland?
I came up here in 2014. I met my now wife down in San Francisco, and we decided pretty quickly that we wanted to start a family. And I think here I had a really bad case of the flu in San Francisco, and I remember binge watching Portlandia.
Okay.
And I was just in my haze of delirium, I'm like, I should move up there. It looks really nice. And it was like those were the good old days. It was
Yeah,
like really it was a wonderful place, and it still is.
I always tell people, yeah, that was kind of the peak. To me, that was kind of the peak of like, we became this kind of icon of the nation of like, hey, it's kind of weird and quirky and arguably affordable at the time. And so I could totally understand that for sure. And
Yeah.
now I've mentioned it before on the show, but I interned on that show, I think
Is that
season
right?
4. I was a camera intern. Yeah. And I was an unpaid intern. And it was 12-hour days. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun too. I got to hang out with a lot of different people, Jeff Goldblum and, Maya Rudolph was there one day. There's a lot of people, but yeah, great show. And I always say I don't think they would make that today because I don't know. Maybe they would shoot it somewhere else, but I don't think Portland would go along with that today. Probably. I don't
Yeah. I
know.
mean, it's always been interesting to see because we don't like when we were here. I remember it's just like but we're I guess it's being kind of coy about it, right? It's just like, well, we like the show, but also that's not us. It's like that's just a characterization. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's fun.
it just seems like, yeah, that level of self-deprecation or whatever. People, I would love it if they would still do that, but a lot of people I think would be unhappy with that. I don't know, but I love the show. It's great. I was gonna ask if there's anything you wanted to say because you mentioned like some criticisms with the city charter process. Like, what are your just overall thoughts on the first year of this new city government?
I think a lot of the comments from other guests you've had on the past have a pretty good enumeration of the issues. I think the deadlock and lack of ability to come to a consensus on things sort of. I mean, that's the goal, right? And that it hasn't produced that is a pretty strong indicator that there's still some room for tweaking. I think it's probably a bit large, 12 also
Yeah,
being an even number. Just like some of the mechanics of it seem a bit off. And so if I were going to make recommendations for a consolidated city county, I would prefer single member districts so that there's direct accountability. I like ranked choice, but I don't like multiple winners because I
yeah, yeah,
don't think both in practice of like how that ends up happening, like it does, I don't think that often reflects, well, I don't know, it's just sample size of one, but we can look around at other comparable US cities and take some best practices from there.
yeah. I definitely agree with all that because I want to see at least going from 3 council members to 2 per district. But yeah, like one would be better because yeah, single winner. It just seems like it's so much more clear for voters on what they're doing and where their vote's going. I was
Yeah.
talking to somebody yesterday on how uh, this person worked for a city for a long time and it was like a hardcore math person and said could not follow what was happening in the 2024
Yeah.
multi-winner ranked choice stuff. He just
Yeah. I mean, you like I don't know. Voting reform is something that I nerd out about. I really
yeah.
appreciate that.
Do you
And
have a preferred kind of method
I
in
mean,
that?
I think I was a fan of Star, but I couldn't necessarily articulate exactly how that's different from ranked choice. But like anything beyond, like the only good thing about first past the post is that it's easy to explain,
Hmm.
but it produces bad outcomes. And we see that at the federal level. And you can argue that a lot of our political polarization is a direct result of that.
Yeah.
Um,
The two-party system kind of tying in with that. And yeah.
exactly. So I like ranked choice. I think one of the perils of something anything more complicated is that people become suspicious if they can't follow it. So there's beauty and utility in having something that's easy to explain, and sometimes that wins out, and it's really an uphill battle to justify any more complexity you add to a mechanism like that.
Yeah. And how do you feel? Because that's what I was talking about yesterday. Is like this. I don't know. I've talked to people here who who do feel comfortable with it, but a lot of people still feel like you put your ranking in, and then it's just like this black box algorithm that's kind of figuring things out. I'm curious about like your take on that
It's a
stuff,
lot of,
though.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, ultimately, even with transparency, there's still a lot of trust if the process is complicated, more complicated than most people can reasonably explain. Uh, and I mean, that's kind of a concern. So in District 1, I think you had some real challenges with, there was a low turnout, and people, I think generally from polling, people didn't get it. There was still some challenges in understanding how the system worked, and that, I mean, even outside of District 1, even I'm in District 4, there are people that haven't opened their ballots. And I think a lot of it is just some shell shock from the last time around. There's only
Hmm.
one question on my ballot, at least. It was for the Parks levy.
This one, yeah, yeah.
So it's a pretty easy one. I mean, it's still a difficult question, but even just with the one, people were holding out in a way that, even the civically engaged ones, you'd think they're like, ooh, get to open my ballot.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, mine is still unopened, but I am going to turn it in because I did a whole episode about that. But yeah, and I always vote typically. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. Is there any other? Well, first of all, I guess like, what's the best place for people if they want to be involved with this? Just go to the website. Is that the
Yes, where's
best
my camera? Yes, go
way?
to multnomo.org. There should be a call to action to email unite@multnomo.org. Send me an email, let me know what you think. And when you do, you can tell me if you're interested in hearing more about this. I think we'll have probably more direct call to actions where you can just enter your info, add, a more normal mailing list, donations, if I get that set up. And then if you want to volunteer or sign, just finding out opportunities to do that.
Okay, sounds easy enough. Yeah, is there any other stuff like this you want to talk about? Otherwise, I can move on to all my goofy questions here. But is there any other government stuff you want to cover?
No, I think this about covers it.
Okay. Um, this is kind of a maybe a weird segue, but I have been asking a lot of people about. Are you a sports fan at all? Do you like any sports?
I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so that place is just saturated with sports. I
Steelers?
Steelers. I was more of a Penguins fan. I grew up like Mario Lemieux was like, I think the Penguins won back to back in 91 and 92 when I was
Is
like
that
5.
NHL?
NHL,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I really miss having an NHL team. Pirates were never any good when I was growing up, but I love baseball.
Okay, okay. Well, yeah, I just always put it on here because I'm like, it's kind of the steam has kind of gone away, but for a while there was, a lot of MLB talk. The state kind of did pass a thing to incentivize that, bringing or inviting a team here. But I'm just curious, I guess first of all, like, I just want your overall take on Portland's economy. You seem like a real economic minded person.
We are, I mean, our state economist is, raising the alarm bells, right? And ringing the alarm bells because of what they see in their numbers. So I suspect that there's something to that. For the region itself, I mean, we're very reliant on two big companies, Intel and Nike. And, it's unclear if the government can't provide reliable, efficient services that people like, when it comes time to evaluate what they're going to do, where they're going to have their headquarters, you know, they're paying a lot of tax. So, I mean, that's just the reality of things is that if you can justify it, if you say like, yes, we want to be here because we love it here, that's easy. You're willing to pay for things. People aren't purely economic, rational agents.
Hmm.
There's some spirit to it. But if people are upset, they're going to decide to vote with their feet.
It kind of comes back to that service delivery again of like, if they're seeing that reflected, is that kind of what you would say?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same calculus that we all have. Like, I love it here. My family's here. My kids were born here, and I love our schools and our neighbors. But you know, there's a line for everybody in what you're willing to tolerate day to day.
Yeah, it's true. I was talking about that with the parks levy with a friend of mine yesterday of like, because for me, it's like there has to be a line for people. Nobody's going to pay 100% of their income. And I'm just curious where that threshold is in Portland because it seems like we just keep taxing ourselves into this situation. So anyway, it's just something I've been thinking about of like there is a threshold there somewhere,
As
and
they,
I'm curious
yeah.
where it is. But
I mean, as they say, it happens. It's how things happen. It's little by little, and then all at once.
right, right,
It's
death by a
a
thousand cuts or whatever.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
non-linear thing. Let me, sorry, I just remembered one fun sports
yeah,
fact.
yeah.
So, pretty close to where I live in Northwest. Did you know that there used to be an ice hockey rink, like Northwest Marshall and 21st?
Huh? No, I don't think I did.
And did you know that the earliest North American team, the earliest United States team on the Stanley Cup was a Portland team that played
Okay,
there?
no, I didn't know that. I did know that. That's really cool though. Like, and that's official NHL.
That's official. I mean, you look on the Stanley Cup, and I'm sorry, I'm now blanking on the name of the team, but yeah, we have some deep, like the earliest hockey, North American Hockey League had a Portland team.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I'll put up the team or whatever. But I was gonna say I didn't know we had a team. I think it was called the Portland Breakers, which was like a semi-pro football team. Because I mostly watch
Hmm.
football, and but yeah, it's been interesting that like we also had the what was the semi-pro baseball team
The
we had here?
Mavericks
Or the
or
Beavers? Was it the? I can't remember. They used to play at PGE Park or whatever it's called now. Geldwin or whatever it's called. But yeah, we used to have a semi-pro baseball team too. Now obviously they have what the Pickles out in Beaverton, but
yeah, that's a fun one. And the Hillsborough Hops too.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I was gonna ask real quick because you just made me think that like you're pretty committed to this no MultNoMo, but have you ever thought about running for anything, or are
Oh,
you just
it seems like a.
you're purely the organizer for like something like that, or have you ever considered
I mean, I've got young kids. I've got my business to run, so
there's not a lot of
I'm doing
time
a
for that?
yeah, yeah. I talk to me in a couple of years, maybe when I consolidate
I was
again,
just
right?
curious. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. I got some new ones in here. I'll just start with some of the classic ones. Do you like Doritos?
Doritos. It's a good question.
It's okay if you
I
don't,
think its platonic form is in a taco shell,
Oh
and
yeah,
in that
the Taco
respect, I
Bell.
think
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good choice. Would you say that's your favorite iteration of a
Yes, and I
Dorito
don't think
product?
like functionally it works, but like my wife Diana's from Irvine, California, and that is the headquarters of Taco
Okay,
Bell.
I was gonna
And
say.
so when she has these strong childhood memories of like going to their test kitchen, and I think she's
Ooh,
like her mom was probably one of the first people to try at Chalupa.
that sounds awesome. I would love to go there. um, yeah, that kind of I always ask people, do you have a favorite Taco Bell item or a fast food? Do you have a favorite fast food at all?
Fast food, that is what we do on road trips. Like we just came back from the Great Wolf Lodge a couple weeks ago,
Okay, yeah.
and they have like I think the best food option outside of the resort is the Taco Bell that they have there.
Okay.
And whenever I go there, I mean, I only recently discovered their menu, but what is it? The Crunchwrap Supreme.
Oh yeah, it's classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that as a restaurant that can do like vegetarian diets.
Is that what you do?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
so with like a black bean, it's nice.
Oh yeah, I like their black bean stuff. Do you like crunchy or smooth peanut butter? Or maybe you don't like peanut butter.
I like a little edge, so crunchy's great.
Okay. Me too. I like crunchy. All right, I'm trying to get this one in because it's fall time and
Please.
Halloween. Do you like candy corn? I know it's highly
Ooh,
divisive.
I like the idea of candy corn.
Okay. I feel like I've heard that before, so you don't really like it, but it's
I mean, yeah,
just looking at it, you can
I'm
appreciate
pretty
it.
sure like, is it Brock's that make it? Like even their
Brock's is
marketing, they're
one.
like, eh.
Yeah, they're
It's
one of the manufacturers. It's funny because it's not even like a, I don't know what you call that, patented thing. So there's a
yeah,
lot of people that make it, but yeah, it's basically just corn syrup and
it's
like
like
food
sriracha sauce.
coloring.
Like anybody can just slap a rooster on a bottle and just
Yeah.
say, yeah.
Okay, it's all good. I ask that question to anybody knowing that it's, you either love it or hate it. Do you have an animal or creature you're most afraid of?
Man.
What? Oh man, is that what you
Yeah,
said?
I don't know.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought you were just thinking man. Okay. Do you have a favorite type of French fry? Do you like crinkle cut, regular cut, curly fries?
I think just a lot of this is just coasting off my kids' vibes, but like they really like the Shake Shack fries. We have a
Okay.
lot of strong memories going to Powell's. It just came back from Powell's. Cory Doctorow was speaking at Powell's the other day,
Okay.
and we went to Shake Shack ahead of that.
I have still never been to Shake Shack, and I really want to try. I've heard their burgers and fries are good, but I haven't
They
tried.
got a good veggie burger. It's a nice and like I don't know. It's really just become a really nice part because where Powell's is, there was
Right.
nowhere else to really go from there, and it's just become a nice accent to that to the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. I was trying to remember what was there before because I think for a while it was like a vintage store or something.
There's the Buffex on that corner, and then it was a vitamin shoppy.
That's right. It was that vitamin place for a long time. Yeah. I think before that it was something I don't know. I can't remember. But um, do you like sushi?
I do. Speaking of family traditions, every Friday we go out to Conveyor Belt Sushi at Sushi Hata
Okay, where's that?
on Williams.
Okay, North.
It's a wonderful place. I think I first fell in love with. So I do like it's a pescatarian diet, and like they have some amazing like salmon nigiri, very
Mm,
generous portions of it. Just
okay.
like I could just eat that all day.
Is that your go-to roll or not a roll, but sushi that you would pick out?
Yeah, that's definitely the staple, and I mean I like a good caterpillar roll.
Okay. Shout out to the Caterpillar. Let's see here. I'm trying to pick some of these. Um, do you want to shout out? Let's say you're getting ice cream somewhere.
Mm.
Do you go waffle cone, regular cone, cup?
You know, I end up getting extra calories from just being the garbage collection there for the kids.
Yeah.
So I usually just stick to a cup.
Okay. Okay. And what do you have a go-to flavor, ice cream flavor?
I mean, we just had the Great Candy Copia last night,
Wow.
which is the seasonal flavor for Salt and Straw. It's a
Okay.
again tradition.
What is it? I'm curious.
It is like a sweet cream with candy, like chocolate bars mixed in.
Okay.
Very, very good.
This is like a bunch of Halloween candy sort of
Yeah,
crammed in there.
it's good. I mean, there's all their seasonal flavors are fun. They got ghost flavor,
Okay.
which is like
Sounds good.
kind of scotch, so it has like an ethereal kind of aftertaste.
Hmm. That sounds really
Got one with
good.
insects in them.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of like crickets or
Oh,
something?
yeah, crickets, like mealworms.
Okay.
There's one year they had blood flavored, which eh.
I don't know. I don't want to turn like at some point on the show. I don't want to do like a fear factor thing, but I am really curious. I've only eaten I think a couple types of bugs, and I watched this Japanese YouTube channel sometimes, and this guy was getting from a vending machine like tarantula and all this stuff, and I do want to
Hmm.
try it. It's a little gross, but I do want to try it. What was I just gonna ask you? I totally forgot. There was something you made me think of. I'll edit this out. I can't remember, but um, maybe it'll jog my memory. I'll just go back to. Do you believe in aliens, Bigfoot, or ghosts?
Don't believe in ghosts. Aliens, I don't know. It depends on how what coefficients you assign to the Drake equation. Maybe. What was the other one? Cryptids? Like,
Big aliens, Bigfoot, or ghosts? Is the one.
not actively. I don't think it changes my day to day.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah. Is there? I always give people a chance. Is there a You kind of shouted out the sushi place, but there's like a local business or restaurant you want to shout out that you had a good experience at?
Yeah, so the hostel that I live near, there's a hostel cafe. It's at Northwest 18th and Gleason. It is.
Okay,
Did you know it's America's #1 hostel by user
really?
reviews.
Okay,
It
okay.
is fantastic.
It's the
It,
number one rated. Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, I'm a big fan of Jane Jacobs, and in her writing, she talks about these institutions that are the foundation of a functioning neighborhood. The question of where would you leave your keys, right? If you had, in New York, if you're on the east side or something like that, it was that you would leave your keys at the bodega or the restaurant
I
that was
see.
on
Yeah.
the bottom floor of your building, and if somebody needed to get into their apartment, like that's where they'd go, or if like they
Right.
had friends staying over, they
Where's
could
that
just
level of trust? Yeah.
that's what we have here. Like it is the place. Like if we wanted to organize, so when I organized the first meetup for this MultNoMo thing, that's where I went. It's just the place. It's the neighborhood living room,
That's
and I
cool. That's
wish
great.
every neighborhood had something like that.
Yeah, and actually I guess shout out you're part of the I'm trying to remember now, Stadium Hood. Is that
We're technically in Stadium Hood. I'm on
Or
their
you're
mailing list,
Cooch
but
Park,
we
is it?
go, yeah, but I'm pretty close to Cooch Park, so I go to the Friends of Cooch Park every
Okay.
Friday.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah.
And I just remember my question I was going to ask. It was, this will probably come out after Halloween, but was there like a resonating Halloween costume you remember growing up that you had? For some reason, I can't remember like any of mine. Like it was always just like I'll throw on some tattered clothes or whatever. I don't know, and be a zombie.
Halloween's a tough one for me. I don't know if you have this experience, but I over and over again, I just don't get the memo for these group costumes or something like that. And so I get a lot of, oh, wow, wait, where are you? And I'm like,
You're just happy to be there. You don't necessarily
I mean, I
do a
would,
huge costume or
yeah,
something.
I mean, I think I'm a bit scarred from that. Or I think maybe a couple too many times I tried to be Wes Anderson characters and just
Oh,
that
that's
doesn't
cool.
resonate.
That's
Like,
cool.
like an Adidas tracksuit, like
Yeah.
the Royal
Yeah,
Tenenbaums.
yeah. I like those kind of costumes more than the like, I guess, traditional ones. Like I've always wanted to do this and I never have, but I always want to be Julian from Trailer Park Boys because I'm basically wearing, I just need the drink glass in my hand and that's basically him.
Live your truth, man. Like
But I like costumes like that that are kind of subtle and it's like it takes a little insight to figure out like,
it's like
oh,
bounding,
you're
I
doing
think.
something,
Yeah.
but it's hard to like tell. Anyway. Well, cool, man. Yeah, thanks for doing this, and I'll put the website up here again. And yeah, if you're interested in what we're talking about here today, the combination of the city and the county, absolutely check it out. And any of the stuff you mentioned, volunteer, donate, you can email,
Yeah,
all that
still
stuff.
setting up the infrastructure. This is like pretty fresh.
Yeah,
It was only in the last couple weeks that this really took off. So hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll have more infrastructure in place. But yeah, just reach out over email and we'll figure this out.
yeah, for sure. And I was thinking maybe, yeah, if you feel like you can like lend your skill set to this, is that a good, just reach out to you and yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks so much for coming today. You're always welcome
Thanks
back.
for having me.
Yeah.